What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another Shadowlands video. How's everybody doing? Hope you're having a great day. Grab your coffee, kick back, relax. We are going to look at a plus 17 that I just did. Not on the PTR. Obviously, this is live. So we did this with the Stormstrike build. This is the Legacy of the Frost Witch legendary, which obviously gives us a Stormstrike reset whenever we spend 5 stacks of Maelstrom weapon, which we do all the time, and then it buffs our Stormstrike damage as well. So I ran this with Earth and Spike, I think the last dungeon that I did, and it's okay. It feels like Ascendance just has so much more flexibility in the sense that you can just pop it when you really need to pop it and do tons and tons of damage when the dungeon calls for it. So we're gonna run with Ascendance, and we're not running with Earth and Spike, and we have Sundering, and we are Kyrian still. I'm still Kyrian on this guy, and I know that some people think that's weird, but for this particular build, it really helps to shore up some of your AoE damage, like a lot, which is awesome. Um, in 9.2, obviously, like Chain Harvest is getting cooldown reduction from all the flame shocks that it spreads, so it can kind of get free cooldown reduction. So that might just be straight up better than the Kyrian Totem, and it might actually have a lower cooldown than Vesper Totem as well. So we'll have to see moving into 9.2. But for now, with this particular build that I'm running, I don't have a ton of AoE because I'm not running Doom Winds, right? So we make up for that with Vesper Totem, and we're gonna obviously use Sundering, and then the Ascendance pop will also help us with our AoE. So we're gonna run through the dungeon. I got my notes here, different timestamps as to what we're kind of looking at. So let's jump into it. Let's start with the opener here. Oh my god, he didn't give me a countdown. All right, for context, I was having a rough day today. Like I tried a bunch of different dungeons and just wasn't very successful. So you're gonna see me. I'm on the wrong side. I'm sorry. Here we go. Oops, switch that. There we go. You're gonna see my face here. I get very like desponded from just the smallest little things. Watch this. I asked him to do a countdown before dungeon starts. Oh my god, he didn't give me a countdown. And he didn't. So I couldn't do my wolves, which is you should do. And the DH wanted to do meta. Anyway,
actually so frustrating.
it's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal, but it's really annoying in the moment. I was really pissed, but here we go. Here's the first pack coming up. This is some strong AoE damage that we can do, right? So watch this. We pop Ascendance in a second. Vesper Totem, Sundering, Trinket, everything. We're doing 18, 19k there. Pretty good. This is without Doom Winds, right? No Doom Winds here. This is just our little build that we're running. Legacy of the Frost Witch. So the shaman apologizes. He's like, oh shoot, I just realized. Looks good. Everybody's got good AoE cooldowns here in our group. But that's the kind of damage you can do right off the bat with all your cooldowns. I didn't even use wolves, so I should have used wolves as well.
Nobody's Venthyr.
So, another thing for this dungeon. Nobody's Venthyr. We don't have a B-res. We don't have a battle res on anybody here. And we're all melee, except for the healer, who's a shaman. So, like, he actually almost didn't invite me to this group, I don't think, because he's like, are you playing Ellie? And I'm like, no, I'm playing Enhance. He's like, okay. I'm like, why? He's like, well, we just have a full melee group. I'm like, that's okay. And it actually works out being fine. So, yeah, like, sometimes it feels like you can't bring these people. Like, you don't want a melee group. You need a B-res. You need somebody to be Venthyr in this dungeon. Those are all helpful. Don't get me wrong. Very helpful. But we didn't have any of that stuff.
That's funny.
So it ends up working out just fine, as you'll see. Again, we don't have any cooldowns with this build except for Vesper Totem, which isn't even really a cooldown. It's like a 40-second cooldown.
This is where our damage should be a little bit. Oh, has he got Spear of Bastion?
But look, we're doing 13k, 12k without any real cooldowns, just Vesper Totem. The one we do have is Ascendance. Pardon me, we do have Ascendance, but that's the only one we have. And other classes like the Warrior and the Demon Hunter have their big cooldowns that they're running through. Trap. You'll see there's certain points where they'll just do absolutely crazy damage, but we have good pack to pack to pack consistent damage. That's the way this build works.
Great job steering everybody that direction. That's really good.
So that was an example. We're going to be doing like 10 to 12k all the time on these AoE packs, which is great, even without like any super big cooldowns, just Vesper Totem. So let's move forward to well, just a tip coming up here.
Good.
In the higher Mythic Plus stuff, you'd need to pull this Brute with like the next Spider around the corner, and possibly even the
We should not be fighting this
Tormentor,
guy alone. but
because
whatever.
yeah, you just can't pull this stuff alone. It wastes too much time. People don't have that kind of damage. So anyway, I'm gonna skip ahead, but just you need to pull this guy with other stuff, or else you're wasting a huge amount of time. So
It's all good.
we make a big mistake here in a second. We kill this, and then in the next room we make a pretty big blunder. So I pull Veruth with Flame Shock, and then the Paladin throws his Avenger's Shield,
Oh no.
and it hits everybody.
He threw his shield.
So I pop Rocky. Again, we have lots of tools to help with this, right? I pop Rocky. I should have put my Fear Totem down, but I thought people were stacked up, so that was actually another mistake that I made. And then we just have to try and recover this situation, and it's not totally salvageable. People do start taking... The tank dies right
I'll
there.
descend it soon. Seems like the play.
So then the Warrior will die in a second here after Rocky goes down.
Stun as well. Oh,
I didn't realize that the tank was dead. So I was trying to clean this up with the sentence, where with the Earth Elementals still doing the bulk of the work here. But then they die, and I get
I'm feared.
feared.
Shoot, I wasn't with anybody. I'm dead. No. No.
Yeah, so that's fine.
Hmm.
But we do end up salvaging the situation, which is pretty cool. And we end up getting our buff, and it's all good. So the next pack coming up is the big AoE pack. You're going to see here. This is us without Ascendance. So just Vesper Totem and like Sundering in a second, and just our regular
Looks
rotation.
like we got really good AoE.
So these other guys
Good.
are going to do more damage than me because they have cooldowns, but we always have the consistent damage, right? It's just the consistency there. Sundering just really, really good. So we even get up to second place there, just behind the Warrior. But we always can do that much damage because we don't have any cooldowns, which is super cool. I love the way that this build works. So they're going to do way more damage than me here, I think. Right away, we're doing 13, 14k. But then the Warrior pops both cooldowns, Blade Storm and Spear of Bastion. And he does 35k, right? So that's good, 37. Which is great. That's what you need.
Stunning. Big pop off from the Warrior. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's
What
really
we
good.
need.
Really, really good by the Warrior. And again, you need like those kinds of guys that have like big 2-minute cooldowns or big 3-minute cooldowns, and they can just do tons of damage in those moments.
So we'll have
Here's the first boss fight.
Ascendance halfway through this fight or so.
Lust, and then we go. So we should have like decent damage on single targets because we just have that consistency. And we do decide to Ascendance partway through, simply because the boss fights take so long in Tyrannical. It is Tyrannical week.
Much better damage than the last group. After this Severing Smash, we'll...
Yeah, I hold Ascendance till we're done this Severing Smash here. You gotta watch the damage on this, it's pretty crazy. I use my self-heal. Then we go crazy with Ascendance. Catch up on damage a little bit. You can see I'm fighting the Warrior, and then I pull ahead of the Warrior, because Ascendance is just that good. And we get into first place for damage.
It was a good darkness.
So yeah, that's the fight. Nothing else crazy happens here. You can just see that this is how our build will perform. It's got the consistency. The Warrior will catch up again because he's got Spear of Bastion, but we end up staying ahead, I think, for the rest of the fight, which is pretty cool. Okay, so we'll go to 48-55. It's a big AoE pack.
Good job.
Oh, everybody,
much
oh,
quicker.
never mind. We're all neck and neck at the end there. All neck and neck.
Don't have Ascendance up for this, but that's okay.
So if we had Ascendance up for this pull, it would have been enormous, but we didn't. Kind of sad, but that's okay. Again, we're still going to do consistent damage. We're going to end up doing... we don't have Vesper Totem either, so we don't really have anything for this pull. We'll have Sundering in a second, but you can see that the damage is still relatively okay just because of the way the build works. 10, 11k. If we'd had Vesper Totem up there and Ascendance, like we could have done 15, 17k, you know, that kind of thing. But it's just good. Sundering is so good for the interrupts. Make sure you're using that. Yeah, we're lower. We're gonna be lower on all the AOE pulls by a little bit, but we should be
We don't need the ankle biters anymore.
consistent. And then whenever people don't have their cooldowns, we'll kind of catch up to them. So, it's good. Let's move ahead here. 51, 10. There's some cleave packs here. 51. Here, right here. So these guys here, right? There's the Overseer and the Oppressor, the two Oppressors.
We will not have our speed.
So the Dread Bindings, as we've talked about many times, you can stop the Dread Binding chain just by pressing Spearwalker's Grace. You don't have to run out of it. This guy asks again. No Venthyr, right? Just making sure. So we're going to have to run out of these Dread Bindings right here, because I don't have my Spearwalker's Grace, and then run back in. Kind of sad. But you can see our cleave damage is pretty strong. Again, it's just always going to be the consistency. On the next Dread Bindings, we will have our Spearwalker's Grace, and you can see how powerful that is, because we're able to just stay there and continue with uptime on the enemies and not have to run away, which is just enormous. So you'll see it up here.
We will have our speed for this one, which is good.
$13k. Not even Vesper Totem yet. Here comes Vesper Totem. Dread Bindings, we just press our button and we're free, right? No damage taken. This is Bursting Week, I believe. It's Bursting, and then Volcanic, and then Tyrannical, right? Of course. So yeah, it's just the power of that cooldown.
We won't have it up for this one, unfortunately, but that's okay.
We don't have our speed up for this one again, but you're gonna see something that I keep forgetting to do. But once you get the hang of this dungeon and the ability to do this becomes better and better. So you can just pre-run out of the chains, and you can break them immediately right here. Run, and they're broken immediately. I can go back in.
Basically, if you like pre-run away from that, it's real easy.
Yeah, so it's just important.
Neat,
if you don't have anything to break the chain on you, like something like a Blessing of Freedom or like a Spearwalker's Grace, then you have to just pre-run that and get out of the way right away. So let's move forward.
Good.
55. 20. Excuse me. These next set of packs are cool. You can pull these together if you want, and if you're on Fortify Week, you should. So that's what this tank does. Does a great job. Pulls them together so you have 6 targets. This is pretty common in these dungeons.
Get the, shackles. That's like my job.
So number 1, you should kick Barb Shackles. That should be your job as a shaman. But number 2, this is so common in a lot of these dungeons, having like packs of 6 or maybe 7, but like 5 to 7 targets all the time. Mists of Tyrannus Scythe is like that. Theater of Pain is like that. Sanguine Depths is like that. There's lots of packs in Necrotic Wake or Spires of Ascension where there's like pack to pack to pack. There's like 4 or 5 birds that you have to kill, and then there's like 5 or 6 guys. So this idea that Shaman AoE is bad is just a really stupid point to make, and people try to make that all the time. But the AoE is not as good as uncapped AoE. I get that, but when you're pulling in dungeons and you make pulls like this, our AoE is the exact same as uncapped AoE because we can have 6 flame shocks out, and our crash lightning hits everybody anyway. And I don't know, it's not as bad as people make it out to be, because a lot of the dungeons kind of force you into pulls that are like 4 to 6 to 7 mobs at a time.
Shackles.
It's certainly not the best AoE, but it's not bad AoE.
Again.
There's Barb Shackles, make sure you kick it. Like, the AoE is fine. Sure, if you're pulling 20 mobs together, we're going to fall quite a ways behind everybody else, but
Got it.
People just don't do that in every single dungeon. And I don't know, people say that they do, but they don't. Like, the really, really top end guys are doing that, and that's great. But people don't do that in any of the dungeons I'm running. I don't know why I took damage there. So we keep pulling here along the corridor. Again, pack of 3. I think he's trying to grab a little bit more. You should grab more than just 3, certainly, because it's just not enough. But we'll move forward here. I think we got the boss fight. We'll go to 5730. There's an important moment here. So this pack here that has all three of these guys, one's doing Barb Shackles. The Gargoyle does his like Stone Skin form, which makes him really hard to kill. And the other guys are doing the Explosive Anger. I think that's this guy here. He does Explosive Anger. Though all three of those need to get kicked. So if you're in a group, you need to try and organize how to kick all this stuff. And if you're in like a Discord group, especially, you got to be able to organize how to kick all that stuff. Because it's just all three of those have to get kicked. Barb Shackles, you'll see, does not get kicked here. And it goes off. Oh, the first one does. The next one doesn't, though. And then I think somebody dies as a result of it. So there's, I'm kicking Stone Skin off the Gargoyle because I don't want him to get tough. Here's the next Barb Shackles. I can't kick it. It goes on the Shaman. Now the Craggy Earth is coming, and the Shaman gets really low because of that. So you need to be careful. It forces him to use the link there. So you need somebody kicking Barb Shackles all the time. You need somebody kicking the Stone Skin form, and then you need somebody kicking. There's the example that I was just talking about. This guy gets shackled. The DH gets shackled right here. You can see it on his portrait. And then Craggy Earth comes down and he just dies. So really important on this pack right here in the dungeon that you must have people assigned to like doing all that. And it'll just be way easier if you can do that. So 58-35. This is the boss fight coming up. This is Torvald. This actually doesn't go very well for me. It goes well at the starting. I'm just trying to tell everybody that we have to kill the ad really, really fast. Because otherwise you'll just die on Tyrannical to this boss. It's really, really hard if you don't manage the ad properly. So we kind of go crazy. I go ham at the start here. The DH does a good job of getting out of dodge there. I'm holding my Vesper Totem for when the ad comes down. And the warrior held his Spear of Bastion as well. So we just we nuked the ad down. Then I think, yeah, I get hit by one of those, which is really too bad. But I can cleanse it actually on myself, which is awesome. Then I get hit with this here, which is fine. I get out of the group, then I get back in. Again, we're doing as much damage as we can. Go, go, go. This time I actually dodged the stupid pillars. Then the ad comes out again. We need to kill him. Then I get castigated, and I go over here, and I take like one step. I dip like one toe into this.
Oh, there's no battle res.
And I end up dying.
Oh, no. Frag.
I was pretty upset about it.
Oh, I hope we can get through this.
It's funny. I was just super tired. But they do end up getting through it. You just have to be really careful. It's really hard. You got to run out with that debuff, right? But you can't step on any of these things or you will end up dying. The healer did his best, but I just ended up taking too much damage, and I didn't have a defensive ready to go for that. So I ended up getting targeted twice in a row with that mechanic, which is really unlucky. And on the first one, I used my DR, so I didn't take any damage at all. And on this one, I really needed my DR, and I didn't have it. So just a frustrating scenario, but it's okay. We end up killing the boss fight. Just a little tip for you guys. Make sure you be careful where you step there. 103.50. Next boss fight. Here we go. This is Borrelia. This one can get really messy as well if you don't sort of organize who's picking up what orb on the ground, because there's lots of orbs. And people, like right here, you need to, like, I didn't know where people were going, and I just sort of picked up any stray orbs that I could find. I ended up popping my wall as well because I didn't pick up very many, but I've seen people die on this fight because other people like steal their orbs, and you really do need to try and get it organized. I think on higher end Mythic Plus in particular, you must have like a zone. You should divide it up into zones. Like put markers down on the floor for people and say, okay, your orange zone, your green, your blue, your moon, and those are your zones. You can only pick up orbs that are like near your zone marker. Otherwise, you're gonna have people doubling up, and it'll be an absolute nightmare, and you're gonna die. But this boss fight goes fine. We have good single target damage. And it's just an annoying fight having to run out and get all these things all the time. But see, the DH and I are kind of sharing stuff here. I use my speed to pick up one more. That ability does progressively more damage, so if you don't get any defenses on it, you will just die. So let's move forward. 107. 107.30. So this is good here. This triple pack is very difficult. Again, there's like multiple things to kick. You want to kill the Observer first, then you have to dodge the Mistdancer beams, and then you need to kick the Gargoyle. The Shackles that the Overseer does, again, we can stop it with Spirit Walker's Grace, right? Oh my god, stop. There we go. Oof. So Got it. You got to get out of the Craigie. I think I get hit here. Yeah, it's unfortunate. The camera angle's really awful. So the Dread Bindings, we can just get rid of it with our Spirit Walker's Grace and keep our uptime on the boss, which is fantastic. And everybody have really good damage here. I get Vesper Totem back, pop it, do some good AoE damage here. Yeah, that's that. But just know it's like
the Mist Dancer next.
It's the best tool that you have is your Spirit Walker's Grace. In this entire dungeon, it's probably the best tool that you have. So let's get to the Gauntlet. You probably need about 8 minutes or so.
Okay, so we're getting to this final part with about 10 minutes left. I think that's correct.
Yeah, I actually think you only need about 8 minutes left for the Gauntlet and the final boss. I think the Gauntlet takes about 5.5 minutes maybe, and then the final boss is like 3.5, 4 minutes. That's really all you need. So we're doing well for time. Let's go to 114.
I think that's what we.
114.10. We get through a bunch of the Gauntlet. It's not really, it's just pack stuff. Doesn't really matter.
Nice.
So we get to the final boss. This is Call. Again, you'll see our damage right off the bat because we have all of our cooldowns, which is just Ascendance, but we have Vesper Totem and Wolves, and we have our Trinket up. So we have really good, like, single target funnel damage, so it's good. You're going to see it right off the bat here. So we jump out to a good start. I think I pop Ascendance in a second here. There we go. I got lucky and didn't get a mechanic right off the bat, so I got to do all my damage, get it out of the way. We're doing 12, 13k single target, not too bad. Now we get the mechanic, but all of our cooldowns are done, so it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna back up a bit. Call's a really annoying fight as well for melee because you're constantly having to move in and out. I mean, every fight's annoying for melee. You guys who play melee totally understand. It's just like, it's a bit annoying, but that's okay. You just gotta work through it. Vesper Totem has a little bit less value here because we're running Mechanicos, right? So we're getting that cooldown reduction, but you don't get as much on a single target boss fight like this. So certainly a little bit less value, but that's okay. Again, we gotta respect the mechanics here. You can see we have, 5.5 minutes left on this fight, and we're already probably halfway through the fight or so. So
Wind Rush. Look at that.
yeah, so what I want to say about that is that we did not have a Venthyr person. We were all melee, except for the healer. And we didn't have a battle res. And we're probably going to have 4 minutes left in this dungeon. Or 3.5 at least by the end. Like, this is very doable, guys. It's very, very doable. Obviously, those buffs are all really, really helpful. But it's possible to do this dungeon, to do lots of dungeons on higher key levels, like a 17 or above kind of thing. And time them with time to spare. So I think I missed my sundering there. That was too bad. I think we kill her right after this one. I don't get my Ascendance back, that's for sure. I know that. There we go.
Nice.
Yeah, so we had 4 minutes and 10 seconds left at the end. So, like, it's very doable. Very, very doable. Let's go to 118.25. So there's our damage overall, 7.2. Warrior did more, and then we're right behind the DH in terms of damage. Our Stormstrike, as you can see, we cast it like almost 500 times, and it hit 1,250 times. So that's just how the build works, and it's you get lots and lots of Stormstrike hits, which is really cool. Which makes the talent choices like Stormkeeper or Storm Flurry and Elemental Assault very, very important to have. You got to have both of those there. So, yeah, that's the damage overall. I just wanted to show that. I mean, we're climbing keys. We're getting there. We're doing higher and higher stuff, and I'm gonna keep climbing with this build. And I'm not gonna run Doom Winds because I'm trying to show you guys that other legendaries are perfectly fine, that they work in this environment, and it just matters like how does it fit in with your group? What other abilities can you bring that are really helpful, right? Like Vesper Totem, plus Ascendance, and all the other tools that you can kind of bring to supplement your damage. Where the strength of this kind of build is the consistency that it brings pack to pack to pack. You're doing 10 to 12k on like every single pack. You're never going to do 25k, but that's the point. You're evening out on the damage in every single pull. On top of that, again, we had no Venthyr in this Venthyr dungeon, no battle res, and we were all melee in a dungeon with lots of mechanics that require you to get out of melee, like the barb shackles, like the craggy earth from the gargoyles, like all these different things that require you to get out of there. So we managed to time it with 4 minutes and 10 seconds to spare, which is tons of time, and the group was fantastic. So definitely take this stuff into your Mythic Plus dungeons. Don't be afraid to run these builds because they are viable. They do work, and it's something that you can bring to your group. So that's it, guys. That's the 17 Sanguine Depths. I'm going to keep doing some more dungeons. If you like the content that you're seeing here, make sure to give me a like and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.